A man who fell from a building suddenly turned into a zombie. His shattered body healed rapidly. He grabbed a bystander watching the scene and began to gnaw at him. A young couple quickly turned around and ran away. When they finally gathered their wits, they realized that the entire street had been surrounded by zombies. Adults running around didn't even care about children. The world has lost order. Civilization had rapidly regressed in just a few years. A tower of hope stood tall amidst the ruins, dividing the survivors into different classes. Can ordinary people find a way to survive in this apocalypse? Welcome to watch Japan's latest zombie blockbuster, You and the Day the World Ends. Miyamoto Akira is a mechanic. He has been dating his girlfriend Kame since high school. The dream of Miyamoto is very simple, which is to have her own store as soon as possible, and build a happy family with Kame. One day, he gathered his courage to propose. Before he could say a word, Kame suddenly pointed at a young couple by the roadside, and asked Akira to go help them, because their car seemed to have broken down. Miyamoto kindly offered to help, but the car owner thought he was trying to steal the car. The two almost got into a fight. Fortunately, the woman was understanding, and Miyamoto didn't take it too seriously, and ended up fixing the car. The car owner Yamato actually has a life somewhat similar to Miyamoto's. He is a construction worker, and has been childhood friends with Angel. He had never confessed his feelings. That day, Yamato finally gathered his courage, and bought a bottle of perfume as a birthday gift, to express his feelings to Angel. Before he could say anything, Angel noticed someone about to jump from the opposite building. A crowd quickly gathered at the scene. The man turned into a zombie. He even bit a bystander. Yamato quickly grabbed Angel and ran away, but the two suddenly realized the entire street was filled with zombies. People were fleeing, and no one stopped even when a child fell. Angel hurried over to protect the child. Yamato wanted to step forward to protect them, but was entangled by several zombies. He pushed one of them and jumped off the bridge. Using the zombie as a cushion, Yamato got up and escaped to the roadside. The zombie was hit by a passing car a moment too late. Angel clung to the railing and watched. Soon, the bridge was surrounded by zombies. This disaster erupted almost overnight. All phone lines were forced to shut down. The situation continued to worsen. Evacuation orders have been issued for the entire Miura city. Citizens are advised to proceed to designated shelters. According to investigations, the sudden outbreak of the zombie virus originated from a genetic drug developed by a scientist. The virus can be transmitted through open wounds and blood contact. Those bitten by zombies will also turn into zombies. Civilization collapsed within a few years after the virus spread. The entire world was overrun by zombies. In Japan, only a single Tower of Hope remains. Although it's called a tower, it is actually two buildings. One building is filled with the wealthy, while the other houses scientists researching vaccines. The underground space of the two buildings is a refugee area. It was originally planned to become a maglev train station, and was equipped with a clean water and power generation system. After the disaster, it naturally became a shelter. Yamato, separated from Angel, came here, asking around for her whereabouts. A vendor heard Yamato mention that Angel was a nurse, and suggested he check the research tower. It was where scientists and doctors gathered. If she's a nurse, she might be inside the tower. However, getting into the research tower wasn't easy. The entrance was completely sealed off, and soldiers were guarding it strictly. Many people seeking vaccines attempted to break in, but no one had ever succeeded. Yamato was used to working at heights, and planned to climb up the side of the building. The vendor had never seen someone so reckless before. He grabbed Yamato and whispered to him, "I know the route to the back entrance of the tower." Tamaru, who was seeking a vaccine for his family, overheard this, and immediately joined them. The vendor quickly found a man named Kaji, who could point out how to enter the tower. But there's no such thing as a free lunch.
持ってるもの全部よこせ。水、食い物、乾電池、タバコ、使えるものは全部な。バカだなお前ら。裏ルートなんて本当にあると思うか。
It turned out they were a group of scammers. Kaji's accomplices captured another person who wanted to enter the tower. Although his hair had turned black, and his face looked much older, Yamato vaguely recognized him as someone who had fixed his car. The vendor was about to search them, and mocked that Angel might have already been bitten to death. Yamato fought back like a madman, refusing to let anyone curse Angel's death. Meanwhile, inside the research tower, Angel was indeed working under Dr. Shoto. Last night, explosives stored in the underground warehouse were stolen, which left the doctor in a bad mood. He confiscated Angel's perfume bottle, as he was worried that the criminals would use the bombs to cause trouble in the tower.
この特別室に何かあってはいけない。ここにあるのは
人類最後の希望だ。
In the underground refugee area, Kaji impatiently took out his gun and urged Yamato to give up on the idea of entering the tower. It was impossible to achieve. Miyamoto suddenly spoke up, saying that the underground facilities weren't fully completed. There were still areas under construction. There must be unsealed pipes in that tower as well. Kaji replied, "So what? Even if there really is an entrance, we still can't bypass the heavily guarded sentries."
その警備を追い払えばいいんだろう。
A lackey pulled out a large stash of explosives from Miyamoto's bag. Then, a truck filled with bombs rushed straight toward the outer wall of the Tower of Hope. Dr. Shoto immediately heard alarms ringing overhead. The researchers were all cultured individuals and had never seen such a scene. At this critical moment, the head, Commander Seijo, came to calm the frightened scientists and asked about the progress of Dr. Shoto's vaccine development.
試験者たちに最新のワクチンを投与して経過を観察している段階です。その結果ももうすぐ出る。
Commander Seijo instructed Shoto to focus on his research, as the soldiers were already dealing with the zombies outside, and would quickly repair the damaged city wall. They threw the burned zombies into the mass grave, and the blood seeped into the ground. It dripped into the mouth of a homeless man. The explosion drew away a large number of guards. Now was the weakest time for underground security, and the best opportunity to enter the tower. Kaji decided to trust Miyamoto this once, and planned to follow him into the tower. Yamato hurried to catch up. The group quickly found an unsealed pipe and crawled inside. Yamato couldn't help but ask, "Is there really a vaccine in this tower?" The vendor explained, "My brother is a researcher in the tower. Although we haven't seen each other in years, we did contact each other once before. He said there's a miracle child in this tower, and that child is the key to saving all humanity." Just as they entered the research tower through the pipe, the homeless man had been infected by zombie blood and started biting people in the underground shelter. The situation quickly spiraled out of control. Moreover, there was also a mysterious team infiltrating underground to enter the research tower through pipelines. At this moment, the soldiers upstairs discovered the intruders. Kaji and his men opened fire and eliminated them. They led everyone out of the stairwell and into the building. They used building cover to deal with soldiers. Having been in the underground for a long time, everyone was quite skilled. Yamato jumped and tackled one person, and felt the perfume he had given to Angel on him. Kaji worried that if they continued to drag this out, they would exhaust their strength, and quickly called for everyone to retreat. They ran to the no man's land. Yamato held the perfume bottle tightly, certain that Angel was in this building. Before he could feel happy for 2 seconds, a large horde of zombies surged toward them. Everyone immediately drew their weapons to respond. There was no time to think about why there were zombies in the building. The defenses at the entrance must have already been breached. Due to the large number of enemies, they hid in the passages of 2 buildings and locked the doors. Another wave of soldiers appeared on the opposite side. Now they were truly beset by dangers from both sides. Just as everyone prepared to fight to the death, Miyamoto suddenly opened fire and shattered the glass on both sides. The hurricane quickly swept in with clouds of yellow sand. A soldier by the window was directly swept out and fell from the building. Miyamoto and the others grabbed onto anything nearby to prevent themselves from being blown away by the wind. Fortunately, the gust finally stopped after a while. Everyone hurried to leave. A soldier climbed back up, clinging to the window. Yamato was very frustrated about what had just happened. He accused Miyamoto of acting without considering the consequences. Although Kaji had lost a comrade, he understood Miyamoto's actions. If he hadn't shattered the window earlier, we would probably have been wiped out, not long after they left. That mysterious team was chasing nearby. The old man leading them was baffled. What is the purpose of your adventure in such a dangerous place?
ある男を探してるんですよ。間宮響と言います。その男を殺すためにここに来たんです。
Miyamoto didn't know how to offend someone. It's the end of the world, and they still want to chase him for revenge. At this moment, Yamato and his group arrived at a laboratory. There were some blue potions laid out on the table. Tamaru rushed forward when he saw it, but he was stopped by a man in a hospital gown. The vendor recognized him and said, "Isn't that my brother Soda? How did a fine researcher end up as a subject of research?" Tamaru looked around and discovered that a large group of vaccine test subjects were locked up here. Most of them had become unrecognizable due to the unfinished drugs. Soda coldly explained, "There's only a fine line between medicine and poison. Moreover, a vaccine injects a small amount of the virus into the body to stimulate the body to produce antibodies. Once the regulation is out of control, the vaccine will turn into a poison and devour the human body." Miyamoto asked if he knew someone named Shoto. Soda replied. How could I not know him? Shinji Shoto was the leader of the research team. I became like this because I opposed his experiments. Soda had already given up on the idea of escaping. He hoped his brother could end his life himself, to put an end to his hellish suffering, but the vendor was unwilling to take action. Soda pretended to lunge at Tamaru. Tamaru was so scared that he stabbed him in the chest.
この体はすでにゴーレム化しているんだ。心臓を刺しても死なない。殺すにはここを破壊するしかない。
Soda turned and pushed the dagger into his brother's hand, pleading for him to do it quickly, but the vendor had no such courage. In the end, it was Miyamoto who pressed the blade against Soda's forehead and forcefully pushed the blade in, allowing this poor guy to die as a human being. It wasn't safe to stay here long. Everyone collected themselves and continued on their way. Yamato couldn't help but ask Miyamoto, "How do you know the name of the research team leader?"
ここに来た理由は
未来のためだ。俺は未来を取り戻す。
Miyamoto explained that the future referred to the miracle child. This child likely had antibodies to the virus. She has been locked up in the tower for years, drawing blood. At this time, Commander Seijo was dealing with a riot underground, and hoped that Shoto could prepare a large number of vaccines, but there weren't that many reserves available. Shoto had to order more blood to be drawn from the future. Angel had always been responsible for taking care of this child. She truly couldn't bear to treat her this way. The mysterious team also arrived at a laboratory. The masked woman felt that the old man leading them was too familiar with the building, so she asked if he had been here before. The old man admitted, "I was involved in vaccine research." The person who pushed that research was named Seijo. He was originally an entrepreneur who had supported several research institutions. After the zombie disaster broke out, he gathered the surviving researchers to develop vaccines in this tower, and conducted many inhumane experiments in secret. But all of this was for the sake of saving the fate of all humanity. The old man shifted the topic to the masked woman. He wanted to know why she had killed Miyamoto. The masked woman didn't answer directly, but instead asked the old man, "How would you choose between the life of all humanity and the life of one person?"
マミや響はどうしてあんな答えを選んだのか。
As they spoke, the horde of zombies had already breached nearly the 30th floor. Shoto ordered the fire shutter doors to be closed, abandoning the useless humans on the lower floors. He then called staff over the intercom, wanting everyone to gather at the research building. Miyamoto's voice came through the intercom. From their conversation, it was clear they already knew each other, and that the future was Miyamoto's biological daughter. According to the tropes of zombie films, Miyamoto's lover Kame was highly likely to have died, and perhaps she gave birth to the future while still infected. That's why the child has antibodies. Shoto announced over the loudspeaker for everyone to hunt down Miyamoto. The first to succeed would get priority for the finished vaccine. Kaji immediately aimed his gun at Miyamoto. After all, he had come to the tower for the vaccine. But before Kaji could pull the trigger, the fire shutter began to close beside them. He first led everyone to escape. Once Kaji was out of danger, he turned back and fired at Miyamoto. But unfortunately, he didn't hit a vital spot. At this critical moment, the vendor rushed in front of Miyamoto and helped him block the fatal second shot. Yamato also disregarded danger and ran over to check on their injuries. The shutter door blocked Kaji behind it. The vendor's reason for blocking the gun was simple. His brother was dead, so he had nothing to lose. But Miyamoto had a daughter to save, and he still had a reason to live. Angry, Miyamoto got up to survey the surroundings, wanting to hurry and save his daughter. Yamato desperately pulled the other person back. First, he quickly bandaged his wounds. Then he asked Miyamoto, "Don't you recognize me yet? I'm the one whose car broke down." Yamato remembered that Miyamoto had a beautiful girlfriend, and asked why that girl wasn't by his side. As expected, Kame gave birth to the future after being infected with the virus. But as soon as the delivery was complete, she began to turn into a zombie. So Miyamoto had to kill Kame with his own hands. The family of three had only a brief time together, just a mere 12 hours. Miyamoto was a father for only half a day, before his daughter was taken from him. Yamato was deeply moved by this. He told Miyamoto to rest for a moment, and went to the control room to open the shutter. Yamato, carrying a safety rope for high-altitude work, he fixed the rope on the window, and jumped out of the window. Using the rope, he swung down to the lower level. At the same time, Angel didn't want to hurt the future anymore. She turned off the camera and escaped with the girl. By the time Shoto and the researchers arrived, the bed was already empty. At this moment, Yamato found the control room, and successfully opened the closed shutter. He also saved Angel and the future. If he hadn't opened the door in time, the two would likely have been bitten to death by zombies. Now the control room was surrounded by zombies. Yamato opened the door and shouted, drawing the zombies to the doorway. Then he escaped through the back door. He ran straight to the window, grabbed the safety rope, and jumped out of the building. Unexpectedly, a zombie grabbed Yamato's leg. In a critical moment, he fired a shot at it, but soon a second zombie lunged at him. Yamato's strength was nearly exhausted. He was about to lose his grip and fall. Miyamoto appeared just in time, and grabbed Yamato's hand, ignoring the gunshot wound on his shoulder. He pulled Yamato up with all his might. The two didn't dare to waste any time, and got up to move forward. Meanwhile, Angel realized that the zombies behind her were increasing in number. She had to hide the future in a cabinet, and grabbed a metal rod to fend off the swarm of zombies. The frail Angel soon found it hard to hold her ground. Fortunately, Yamato and Miyamoto appeared in a time. They smashed through the surrounding zombies. Yamato tightly embraced Angel, and finding each other in such chaos was a stroke of luck. Just then, the future called out. Miyamoto stiffly lifted his head. He recognized it was his daughter at once. He approached the future in disbelief. The future was too young to remember when she was taken away. Miyamoto was now covered in blood, and of course the child would be scared of him. Soon after, Tamaru followed the sound and came over. He said Kaji had gone alone to find the vaccine, and the security guards were about to catch up. We must leave here quickly. Miyamoto gathered his spirits and stood up, urging them to take the future and leave the tower. He would go out to draw the security guards away. Yamato was worried and insisted on going with Miyamoto. He promised Angel that he would survive and meet her again. After they spoke, they charged at the security guards behind the door. As they left, Tamaru pulled out his handgun and demanded Angel hand over the miracle child. With this child, he could obtain the vaccine. Angel could only allow Tamaru to take the future. Yamato and Miyamoto narrowly evaded the security guards, but unexpectedly ran into Kaji. This guy was still intent on killing Miyamoto for the vaccine. The two hadn't figured out how to deal with Kaji yet. Then they saw the security guard grabbing Angel. She hurriedly told Miyamoto. Tamaru took the future to the lab to find Shoto. Hearing this, Miyamoto rushed toward the lab. At this moment, Kaji had already caught up with Miyamoto. The two wrestled in the narrow stairway. Miyamoto managed to push Kaji down, but then had to deal with Yamato, who was threatened by the security guard. He didn't want to fight against him, so Miyamoto first dealt with the zombies in the hallway, but Yamato didn't give up. Yamato followed Miyamoto to an open area. The next second, he was pulled down by Miyamoto. As the two grappled on the ground, the security guard chased after them, holding Angel. Yamato picked up the handgun, apologizing while aiming at Miyamoto. However, Miyamoto suddenly said, "Volatile liquid. It only takes a spark to ignite." Angel immediately understood Miyamoto's meaning. She smashed the perfume Yamato had given her, the flammable liquid splattering all over the security guard. The moment he fired, flames engulfed him. See, this is the consequence of not studying hard. Miyamoto quickly crawled over to finish him off. He hadn't even caught his breath. When Kaji caught up with him, Yamato directly exploded his head. Regardless, Miyamoto had just saved Angel. Yamato was determined to help him rescue his daughter, so he told Angel to escape first. After saying this, he supported Miyamoto as they headed toward the lab. At this moment, Tamaru was threatening everyone with the girl's life.
本当は家族なんていないんですよ。父さんも母さんも妹も食料がないまま餓死したんだ。タワーの人間はワクチン開発に夢中で何もしてくれなかった。俺はあんたらを許さない。お前らのワクチン、俺が全部奪ってやる。
Tamaru had placed several bombs inside the building. Commander Seijo proposed a deal. We can help you administer the vaccine, but you must reveal the locations of the bombs. Tamaru had just completed the injection. When his body began to react abnormally, he turned into a monster like soda. Seijo quickly fired his gun, killing Tamaru. Then he aimed at Dr. Shoto, because his newly developed vaccine had failed again. At this moment, Miyamoto's voice came through the radio. Seijo instructed Miyamoto to come to the top floor lab first. While waiting, Shoto told Seijo, "My father once tried to create an antiviral vaccine using Miyamoto's wife. He was killed by Miyamoto. This man is extremely dangerous." Miyamoto arrived at the lab. Shoto was certain that he wouldn't dare to detonate the bombs, because doing so would also kill the future. Yamato quickly shot down the surrounding soldiers. Seijo urged Miyamoto to think carefully. The antibodies in this child will eventually save hundreds of thousands of human lives. As an adult, you should understand the importance of priorities.
未来の幸せは
大いなる犠牲だよ。尊いことじゃないか。君にとってはかけがえのない大切な存在だ。だが命に優劣はない。
Seijo finished speaking and shot Shoto dead. After all, there were other scientists who could research the vaccine. He would never hand over the future. In despair, Shoto finally revealed the truth. In fact, the future had no antibodies in her body at all. He just wanted to deceive Seijo to save his own life. Seijo kicked the future aside. Miyamoto quickly shielded his daughter, blocking Seijo's bullet. As for the detonator on the ground, it was just a fake. This tower was no longer useful. Seijo quickly led his men to evacuate. As he was dying, Shoto still wanted to take someone down with him. He kicked Yamato aside and picked up a shard of glass, wanting to stab the future to avenge his father. To everyone's surprise, Miyamoto got back up. He then stabbed Shoto, killing him. It turned out he knew this trip was very dangerous, so he had injected himself with a half-finished vaccine beforehand. Miyamoto had already begun to turn into a zombie. As long as he wasn't shot in the head, he wouldn't die. He entrusted his daughter to Yamato, asking him to take care of the future and ensure her survival.
未来幸せにな
Yamato left the tower just before the explosion. Seijo looked at the explosion site, ready to relax, when he heard the sound of a bomb coming from under the chair. Soon after, the mysterious team arrived at the top-floor laboratory, but this place looked very dilapidated. It was as if the explosion had happened many years ago. The masked woman and her companions took off their masks. Behind her were actually Angel and Yamato. It turned out that the two storylines were separated by 20 years. The masked woman was the grown-up future, and the old man leading them was Seijo, who survived the explosion. This crafty old man pretended to beg for mercy, seizing the opportunity to grab the future girl's handgun. Unfortunately, there were no bullets in it at all. Yamato stepped forward and shot Seijo dead. The three continued to search in the abandoned building. They found a camera in the hospital room. It contained a recording left by Miyamoto. He urged the future to live well. He also said, "Your mother and I will always be with you." With a heavy heart, the future closed the camera. She found Miyamoto in a side room. He had been impaled by rebar for 20 years, and had not died. The future had to end her father's life herself, so he could leave this world peacefully, to reunite with his beloved Kame. The film ends here. The original cast from the namesake series was invited back. The parts where Miyamoto and Kame fought zombies are mostly featured in the series. The film mainly tells the story of Miyamoto searching for and saving his daughter after Kame's death. Due to a limited budget, the special effects were average. However, the story was relatively complete, and character development was decent. But zombie films tend to recycle the same old plots. It seriously lacked originality.